So one of my fondest angles was obviously Canada versus USA. I recently interviewed the Patriot of all people, and it seemed like at the same time that angle was so far ahead of its time. But could it work today with the sensitive political and social nature that exists? How would that work today?
The Canada US thing?
Yeah, because I mean, quite frankly, a lot of the stuff you were saying, if you put it down right now, it would be even more appropriate than 1997.
It was the whole thing was initially I don't know. I remember in the beginning, like they would have me say stuff. And I remember it's like I'm kind of walking this line between being a baby face and a heel. And I remember a lot of times saying, I got to say something smarter than that. Like I can't just go out there and say stupid stuff. I'm kind of still a baby face, and it has to be done in a very intelligent way. So I think, there was an effort to keep it pretty smart in the beginning. And that was kind of where it kind of petered out, was when they kind of cut the power on me. I remember it's like Vince mysteriously kind of ran out of ideas about the end of August, and they didn't really push the the U.S. Canada promos for me. I remember Vince was the one that came up with the storyline about sticking the anima, giving Pittsburgh an anima. Um, I remember as that I was like, geez, that's a bit strong, like because I always liked Pittsburgh as a
Yeah.
city, and it's like, yeah, you got to say that, and it always was one of the things that I'm not sure I've ever been forgiven in Pittsburgh for saying that, but Vince was hands on, giving me sort of telling me how to do the whole U.S. Canada thing. And one of the things that happened after SummerSlam, after I worked with, I think it was the
Undertaker.
Patriot
Oh yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
Undertaker, and that time period, they just cut the power. And if you sort of watch my promos for the next 2 months, I'm kind of walking out there, and it's the same thing as I had in WCW, where I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't have anything to say other than I'm saying what I said the week before. It's just trying to ranting about Canadians being better than Americans, and lost a lot of its power because, ultimately, Vince McMahon, he's the idea guy, and he was a big part of the success of that U.S. Canada thing working, because he was giving me a lot of ideas, and I think it was part of my intentional grounding, was that to, okay, now we'll cut the power on him, like let him just go out there and he doesn't know what to say. And it's too bad. I've always thought that was one of the smarter storylines. I always loved the line I had about they don't shoot each other and kill each other on every street corner and all that stuff, but it turned out to be pretty fitting stuff for the times, and probably would be just as I don't know. Even in those days, when I think of the United States today and how much problems with you know, the political tensions that they have there right now. If I go back to remember those days, I can remember, you know, like in some of those places like Montgomery, Alabama, and places like that, getting in my car to drive off after the show, and I would have hillbilly guys in trucks follow me for miles, shaking their fists at me and trying to run me off the road. And it was dangerous stuff. It was like, these guys are really mad that I'm bashing America, and they were like redneck nut jobs. And I had a lot of wackos that as soon as I started putting down America, it was like you know serious stuff to them. And I'm glad that that nothing bad ever happened from it. I can remember telling Vince that it was becoming a problem for me to leave the buildings at night at
I
the end of the
wondered.
show, because I was all by myself at the end of the night, and I got to drive to the next town, and there's fans that would follow me for 50, 60 miles, shaking their fists at me and trying to cut me off. And, it was, again, it was part of a strange job sometimes, where it's like they don't understand the stuff that you got to go through on a 24-hour basis.
Yeah, I watched some of that stuff back, and I was like, man, you could have dropped any of these promos in 2020. they would fit right in. Like it would make a lot of sense. My parent company is based out of Canada. I miss Canada a lot. Like I go there and I'm like, wow, it's so much more peaceful here, and people are nicer to each other on the streets. Like I thought it was not ever going to Canada. I was like, oh, it's for storyline. No, it's real. A lot of it's rooted in realism.
Well, Canadians have always been sort of the more gentler, laid back version of Americans anyway. Like we're as much, we're really kind of the bastard child of Britain and the America, because we're kind of like Americans, but we're British Americans. It's kind of, it's very, it's a unique place, and there's a temperament that Canadians always have a good temperament. And, I think we're a better place because, Canada, for the most part, we actually don't mind wearing masks and stuff. Yeah. It's not that big of a deal,
You were, again, very outspoken that you thought you could do more the last couple of years. Based on how you have succeeded in Impact Wrestling, do you feel like vindicated? Do you feel like this is what I told you guys I could do, and now I'm doing it?
A little bit, but I also feel like there's a tremendous amount of pressure on me to perform at that level that I said I could perform at. And with Impact taking this chance on me and all the things that I said, before I really got started in the division, I take this role so seriously, and I'm constantly like getting time in the ring and working on new things and trying to up my cardio and get in better shape and bring my gear to the next level every time, because I want to prove not only myself right, but the people that believed in me and the people that are giving me these opportunities, like they need to know how heavily it weighs on me and how much I appreciate it. So there's so much pressure that I felt going into Slammiversary. There's 10 times more pressure that I've put on myself going into Bound for Glory now, because not only do I need to retain my championship, but, I can't be like a one-hit wonder. I can't be a fluke. I need to bring it to that same level, then some, the second time around.
Now, admittedly, before Slammiversary, when we would do the prediction shows, I'd be like, Deanna's not winning that. She doesn't have a contract. It was pretty widely known that you were working per appearance. Were you surprised that they were willing to instill their trust in someone who hadn't signed long-term yet?
I think going into Slammiversary, I was very honest about, I like everything about this. I like the vibe here. I like the girls here. I like how I'm treated, I feel very much a part of, and all of the things that I felt I was lacking on a fundamental human basis prior, I feel at this place. And I made that known of it might just be a one-shot thing, but this is where I want to make my home and I want to grow in this place. So I was surprised, but I was also this is a good sign and this is good for me, and I'm going to plant some roots here and to be given the trust, not just to be the champion, but to come in and go right for the champion and be getting these storylines and all of the TV time and the social media stuff that I've been able to do. It shows that they have equal trust. So as surprising as it was, I feel like we had a mutual understanding of I would love to be here long term,
Yeah, so that was my next question. This is a place where you're looking to just be long-term.
Yeah, like I said, I've been here now since May, so almost 5 months now, and I'm happy with everything I've been doing. I'm happy to stick around, and I'm happy to continue to defend my championship on every pay-per-view for the long term.
So there was a situation last year that I didn't get to talk to you much about. Jon Moxley bringing up your name in an interview when you're being, quite frankly, criminally misused, and you did a bit of a hat tip on Twitter. I mean, I don't think anybody expected you to come out and bury the company that you were a part of, but it's one of those things where it's let somebody else give you the compliment so you don't have to yourself. And I mean, that's a pretty big friggin' compliment, having a guy who would go on to be AEW World Champion for most of this year saying, I wanted to work with that guy. I think we could have done cool stuff together. And he's sitting there saying, why isn't there more from this? How does that feel for you going through what you were going through? Was that a little bit of validation? Was that see, motherfuckers, this is what I've been trying to say, or you guys are using me wrong? Or at that point, were you deflated?
No, that helped a lot because I have such a high amount of respect for him and his work. And it was, I guess validation is a good word, that because I'm not going to be the guy that's going to complain on social media.
Sure.
I'm not going to be the guy that's, whine, bitch, and moan about anything. Like, I'm going to try to handle it the best I can, or I'm going to do what I think is necessary to get out of it. I'm going to do what I can myself, but that helped. So the people that knew were like, this makes sense. Okay. And the people that, I still want people to think I wouldn't try, or that I would relegate myself to being subpar, because I would never do that ever. That's just not who I am. So that helped. And then, that's it. Thank you, brother. But at the same time, I can't put too much, like, that's one man's opinion. And as much as I respect it, it's not going to do me any favors here. So I still have to put in the work here with whatever that may be, regardless whether it matters or not. It doesn't. But I was willing to try.
I mean,
and then seeing that, like, real fast, the mention of that means that there's wide open facility to tell an amazing story with him down the road that is real, resonates, emotional, has moments. In theory, an EC3, deranged, shaved head, psycho boy who's lost it all could very well blame John for everything he experienced because of his deciding to leave the company, of his deciding to talk about me outside of it. If that means we wind up rolling around in glass and barbed wire and throwing each other off things and just beating the living shit out of each other for the entire world to see, hopefully a packed arena someday, that's really cool.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it, because we see John Moxley doing that type of stuff. I mean, he and Eddie Kingston had a history that, quite frankly, not nearly as many people knew about as they know about EC3 and John Moxley having history, because he said it on his first post WWE interview. So, I mean, I think there's very clearly a lot of meat on that bone right there.
Yeah. Anytime I get super philosophical and maybe creative and artisty and put up a self-created promo or self-created match or all these things, you got to love the one-track mind of a wrestling fan because it's like, let's see what the comments say. Go to AEW.
Yes.
Oh, all right. Why? Fight John Moxley. Okay, that's something I'm very interested in. Fight MJF. As opposed to seeing the art and the creation of it and the in-depth stories. You get that sometimes, and it's, I don't know if it's dissuading, maybe a little bit, but at the same time, that's what people want to see, then that means there's box office to be made.
When they told you that you were going to win that initial match against John Moxley, but it's going to be 2 minutes, are you like, all right, this is happening, some stuff is happening?
At first I was like, really? And that was just right after he kind of agreed to, I'm not coming back, I'm not resigning. I'm like, well, I mean, that's fair. You don't do the favor on the way out, but at the same time, I would like it to mean something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think down the road, it maybe could have led to something. And then there was the one match that was like a few minutes, and it was a little finish. And then I thought it would progress into something that maybe I could have a star-making moment in a real match against one of the top talents in the industry, that he's on his way out. I'm on my way up, but didn't happen like that. So did that answer your question?
I mean, sort of. 1 week later, they're retconning the whole thing. They're like, Matt, well,
yeah,
different result, 4 minutes. And it's,
yeah.
Do you wonder, like, okay, are they just messing with him? Are they messing with me? Is that anything that even hits your brainwave? Because
I think why I didn't go, what the is because, they think you might be better off as a heel. I'm like, yeah, of course I am. Like, yeah. For real. Good
scouting report, guys.
Does that mean I can speak? Can I speak and explain why I'm not a good person?
Can tell the weather from what I hear.
Yeah, but I guess there were some apprehensions because we had matches on the live events that were, I think they were sick on the card. They were good, solid matches. I was the protagonist. He was the antagonist, but he's had a 7-year run of incredible work that built his name up with a very loyal audience. And I was a new guy in yellow trunks with a muscular physique that people were like, I want to see it. Like, yay him, boo this new guy. And that makes sense. I would do the same. And I believe on the third match of that loop we had, I think we're in the middle of the match, and they're cheering him, they're booing me, and we kind of called the audible out there, like, let me take over as the aggressor and the villain in this scenario, and let's give them what they want, you being cheered. And we did it in the middle of it. Like, that's calling on the fly, that's reading the audience. That's what pros do. I guess it wasn't well received by somebody in charge, or misconstrued up the chain, and then the rest is history. But yeah, it was still a good match. That I just showed why I should be a bad guy in this scenario, and he showed this is why I fight, and it was cool. And the live audience reacted accordingly, which I think is the point of what we do.
Usually I save the finishing move talk for the end for a special segment, but you guys kind of shared a finishing move for a while. You all did a very similar move. He told me the reason that he stopped doing that is because a lot of times he'd run into some people that were a little bit too tall, and they'd end up like taking it a little bit weirdly. Was there a reason you moved away from it? Was it just something that you wanted to keep in your back pocket?
Yeah, I kept it in the back pocket, but I think I used it once in NXT and like as a falsie, just as a throwback. But I think going into the WWE, I didn't want to bring a move that they didn't let him do. Like, why am I going to do something? He's probably already went through this. So if he's not using it, there's a reason he's not using it. I can substitute that and find something else down the road. So that was the only reason. In fact, when I was in there first coming into NXT, they're like, yeah, then you can do your deal. And I'm like, I do this deal instead because I know it's going to get taken away eventually. So why even establish it if we're not going to run with it?
What were you using in NXT? I can't remember. Was it the TKO?
Oh, TKO.
Oh, that's a Derek Bateman callback. Nikki Bella gave you that move.
She did, yeah. And then it was also an EC3 falsie in Impact and TNA days too. But it's cool. It's easy.
I like to pretend that Nikki Bella passed it down to you, the rack attack.
She just, I gift you this. You gave me a bag of change. Here is your new finishing maneuver. Well, thank you. How kind.
We have an interesting reader question from Tallahassee, Florida. This comes from an Effie.
Oh.
And it said...
Listen for life.
At what point during the auditioning process for the blockbuster smash hit film Cats, the production team figure out you weren't a human pretending to be a cat like Jason Derulo, but an actual cat with skill and thumbs, putting a damper on their entire fantasy of what a cat could be, then blacklisting you from the entire filming process?
It happened very quickly. Obviously, as you can tell, like I wasn't in the film. I'm not even in like the credits reel.
Well, let's be real. Nobody knows that you weren't in that film because nobody watched that film.
I think a few people watched it very, what's the word I'm looking for? Like masochistically.
Yes. Sarcastically
like
watched it, maybe.
Yeah, like it was like one of those like ironic things where they watched it and then maybe they liked it afterward. I don't know. I definitely didn't watch it. I was very scared when I saw the preview in theaters.
For sure, if you told people you were in Cats, they would not second guess you whatsoever.
For sure. They wouldn't be able to prove it.
Yeah, and they're not going to do that. And he has a follow-up. If Alley Cat is your first cat name, what are your other two cat names?
What do you mean? Like, is Alley Cat one name? Is that my first name?
I think so. Like, for example, my cat's first name is Jenny Davis. Her last name is The Cat. Like, that's her last name. Officially, maybe that's what he's insinuating here.
It's like Allie, first name Allie, last name Cat, but then a lot of people will call me Allison, and then they turn Cat into Catherine. So I feel like Allison Catherine is my first name, and I need to find a last name now. I don't know. Someone also gave me like another one. They're like, if you ever get signed, like you have to change your name. It was like Tabitha Patterson or something. I was like,
You've said in previous interviews that Vince McMahon failed you. Well, I mean, I have fond memories of Team Canada in TNA, yourself, Scott D'Amore, A1, Bobby Roode, all these people. Did your long history with Scott D'Amore give you more confidence after what you had been through creatively to come back to Impact Wrestling?
I think it played into it for sure. And I mean, you know, like I've said what I've said about Vince. I don't think, you know, the decision of me being in that position is anything personal. He was always polite to me when we spoke. You know, he, you know, he's got way more wins than he's got losses. In the end, he didn't fail me. He failed himself. That's what I have to say about that. He failed himself. He failed the roster. He failed his shareholders. More importantly, he failed the fans. And I think every week on Impact or anywhere that I work, I'm proving that. Like, I was never in that position. It had nothing to do with my ability. It had nothing to do with my history. It had nothing to do with my skill set or anything that I had done or said. It was just one person's opinion. I'm not the first person that he missed on, and I won't be the last. He doesn't care. I mean, he's just going to go on making billions of dollars like he you know, he's winning. You know, he's definitely winning. And I don't think it's anything personal. I'm not mad at him or you know, I mean, I would never, you know, hold it personally against him, but it was a mistake, a big one, maybe one of the worst ones he's ever made. That's just my opinion, but my opinion won't change. He made a huge mistake. His mistake is the wrestling world and Impact Wrestling's advantage. And, you know, if that didn't happen, then I'm not sitting here talking to you. I'm not the world champion. I'm not part of, you know, a wrestling company that's growing during a global pandemic. You mean, like, it's a very exciting time to be Eric Young and to be part of Impact Wrestling.
And you've been a part of multiple regimes from, again, main roster WWE stuff to NXT where Triple H and Road Dogg kind of have the run of things, TNA, various regimes there. Which ones do you think handled you best, and were there any others that you look back at and you're like, maybe they just didn't quite get me?
Yeah, it's I mean, I've gone through, you know, I mean, at TNA itself, you know, 10, 15, 20 different changes of the guard. You know, it's I was there for 12 years, so I've seen it all. I started there when we were working just on the Wednesday weekly pay-per-views. I was there when they went to Fox Sports. I was there when they went to Spike. I was there when they lost the deal to Spike. I was there when they went to Destination America. I was there, you know, when they went to Pop. So, and now I'm back and they're on Access. And I feel Access is such a good fit for them right now. It's in a ton of homes, you know, and some signing the deal with Pluto, which is a huge international platform. The brand is growing, you know, it's growing like crazy. The WWE, like my run in NXT, I loved it. I still talk with Hunter today. I was talking to him on Monday, and you know, me and him are very friendly. The opportunity he gave me in NXT, I will never forget. It was two of the fondest years of my life in wrestling. I loved it. You know, working for the WWE, winning the World Tag Belts, being part of War Games Match of the Year. Sanity was one of the number one acts in NXT. Everyone is, you know, if you're listening to this, you're well aware of what happened on the main roster. If I could erase that, I would, but I'm a very experiential person. I believe everything happens for a reason, and I want to experience everything, good, bad, and indifferent. And, you know, the main roster run was definitely not a success, but it happens. You know, it's just part of wrestling. It's part of the business. I'm moving forward, and it's cool to be with Impact in a time of growth like this. And I want to be a big part of and be responsible for its growth being a household name. That's the plan.
I remember hearing a story that really stuck out to me about Dusty Rhodes telling you guys never to leave each other's sides, become shadows of one another. Before that, had you all already kind of like said, you know, we're going to make our mark in tag team wrestling. Like, that's going to be where we make our mark. Did those words put it in perspective? How does that resonate with you years later?
I think that Dusty, he already knew that we were together all the time. I mean, we were already best buds by that time. I think specifically what he meant was, and that this was a big big eye-opening thing for me for tag team wrestling. I think specifically he meant in the ring, like be shadows of each other in the ring, like wherever you are, just because that helps with television, with the perception of television. Because if we're together and they get the shot of us together, then subconsciously the fans are thinking, oh, okay, they're together. It's also easier to shoot and easier to produce. But he already knew that we were best buds before this. He knew we've traveled together for, almost 7 or 8 years in the same hotels for a very long time, up until just recently when we were able to afford to purchase different hotels. But yeah, he knew that we were always together. But I think he specifically meant in the ring.
Yeah, and I think another big thing for him was, so when I did my tryout in 2013 near the end of the year, and at that tryout, some of the coaches came up to me probably the first day really and asked if I knew Dax, and I was like, yeah, we're pretty good friends. We've known each other for a while. We go pretty far back. Like, man, you guys said you remind me of him so much. Would you be interested in being a tag team with him? And yeah, we've talked about it for years, actually. Like, every now and then we'll just say, when I get there, we need to try to push this. And then, obviously I got hired. I got offered the contract. And from day one of my promo class, like, he'd been there a little bit longer, so he kind of knew the system better than I did. He was like, hey, let's do a promo together your first day. And Dusty loved it. Dusty wanted us to be together. So I think another thing he meant by it was be seen together as much as possible. So subconsciously, when other coaches see us that might not be completely on board with us as a tag team yet, because there were another head coach that I don't think was fully bought in, and a couple others. And so just be together all the time. So when they see one, they see the other, and they just put you two together subconsciously, and then it'll just kind of meld over into the ring. And luckily it worked out great.
So not to lean too much on WWE, but coming from a place like that where a lot of people complain about being creatively stifled, you guys are being given an awful lot of freedom right now. And look at Deonna Purrazzo. She was we joked on our interview that she was 0-20 on WWE TV, and she laughed about it. Right. She ain't 0-20 anymore, and she's in ridiculous shape right now leading in. Yes. She signed a new contract. They were willing to put the title on her without a contract. She was so good. And you guys are in main events on Impact every week. It's like
it's been great. And she's really flourished since making the move to Impact. A lot of people will say, and you hear these interviews and stuff, and when you leave, you either hear some bitterness or you hear, I'm glad that happened. But I honestly, it's been the best blessing of my entire career. It's the most creative freedom we've ever had in our entire careers. We're launching this whiskey brand. We have a bottle signing Friday night. This interview will drop on Friday, but we have a bottle signing at Leatherwood Distillery in Pleasant View, Tennessee. You can come out and get the first batch bottles out there, or you can email talkinshop@gmail.com and reserve a first batch bottle. But, they're letting us push this stuff on television. They're letting us push our beer. They're letting us just really grow this brand and mutually promote each other. And I couldn't be happier to be wearing the Impact hat. And again, on the Deonna thing, I mean, what a great story there is there. And to actually see her go out there and perform at the level that she deserves to be able to be showcased on, I think is a complete blessing. And hats off to Don Callis, Scott D'Amore, all the brass over at Impact Wrestling for, being wrestling purists and seeing it for what it is and giving people a chance to really go out and get over on their own and not just portray a character. I portrayed a character for a lot of years, and it's fun to be me now. So it took a long time, but I'm thankful for it.
One of the things I like about Impact, it doesn't seem like anyone is ever permanently slotted in something. Like, for example, Rohit Raju is the X Division champion. He was losing an awful lot on TV a year or two ago. You got Sami Callihan, who was the top of the card. He's cornering Ken Shamrock this weekend at Bound for Glory.
Yep.
Nobody is fixed to one certain thing and has to be anchored to that. It seems like there's a lot of room for flexibility there.
There's a lot of room for movement, and we have such a versatile roster that you can plug people in anywhere. You keep them viable on the television show. And I mean, I can see Sammy jumping right back up the card. It's weird because
he dropped about 25 pounds in the last month and a half too.
He looks great. I saw the tweet there a month or so ago about he was getting back in singlet shape, and not to give away too many surprises, but I may or may not have seen him at the filming of Talking Shop-A-Mania 2. And I'm like, dude, look at you. Like, you true to form. I love it, man. Everybody's getting in shape. Everybody's motivated. It's a motivated roster. It's a motivated brand. I said it on Full Keg and it got a lot of play, but if you're sleeping on Impact Wrestling, it's time to wake up. I truly believe that.
And we've seen a lot of people that were free agents kind of come in and do different things.
Yeah.
We've seen you all doing what you do, which is consistently entertaining. We've seen Heath doing what he does, which is consistently entertaining. But we've seen EC3 do something completely different. We've not seen him do that. It seems like a lot of places would be happy with everybody playing the hits, but they're switching up the formula a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing. Like that's kudos to EC3. I mean, he's always been one of the great promos of the business, but now you're seeing another layer of that, another character layer. And Impact was cool enough to go, yeah, we'll do this deal with you for whatever time period it's going to be. And then, yeah, go over here and do Ring of Honor. Like, it's cool to kind of have those options and stuff. And then another, it's no secret that he's a buddy of mine, but I've thought that his talent was slept on for a long time as well as Brian Myers, the most professional wrestler. And you're seeing him deliver these, I hate to put a star rating on anybody, but I guess a 5-star performance or, a top of the line performance where he can go in there and carry a main event and do great. And, I'm proud of these guys. I'm proud of our roster, and it's fun to be on a team that is in there consistently swinging. Nobody has a bad idea. Everything's up for discussion, and it's been great. So.
Did you ever hear that Vince thought that EC3 sounded like a weatherman?
No, but that's of course he said that.
One of the best promos in wrestling. They're like, he sounds like a weatherman. Oh my God. And to your point about Brian Myers, like the guy I listened to his toy podcast for the love of God.
Oh, he's great.
I didn't have an interest in wrestling figures 5 months ago, and now I do. I'm interviewing the guy at a toy store next month, for the love of God. But he and Cardona will talk about figures on their show, and the price rises. It's
it's insanity. He came in my basement. He goes, "Bro, you got all these elites down here, bro. These look worth like $100. Let me throw them in my private group on Patreon or whatever it was." And I go, okay. And he goes, "Hey, they're all sold. You need to come in your basement and sign them." And I'm like, "We're cooking dinner, but okay, cool, great."
That is amazing.
So yeah, he loves it, man. It's fun because we're it's a lot of like-minded, super motivated individuals and talents right now, and everybody's throwing stuff at the wall. Some of it's sticking, and we're just going to keep doing that and keep the momentum going. You brought up the weatherman thing. One of my favorite characters and one of my favorite projects that we're doing right now. If you haven't seen it, check out @The Real Gimmicks. It's our animated selves coming to light. You got Machine Gun Carl Anderson as his alter ego, Chad Too Bad. You have Rocky Romero as Chico El Luchador. Myself, of course, as Sex Ferguson. Then you slide Enzo in there, who may be even better in animated form than he is in real life. And then Lisa Ann, who, if you don't know who Lisa Ann is,
come on,
Google
our demographic.
That
our demographic.
Yeah.
Come on.
We all know who Lisa Ann is, and I went, "How the hell did we get Lisa Ann? This is great!" And like the number of guest stars that are signing on to this thing that I can't even say anything about. And then seeing Scott D'Amore animated with a huge pop for that, I thought that was great. But Mr. Mick, holy hell, I can't get enough. I have no idea who's voicing that, by the way.
I don't know if you guys are hip to this, but like as part of this gig, we got to cover like the quarterly calls and stuff. And during that second quarterly call, it was the first time in like 2025 of those I had ever heard investors say, "Hey Vince, what are you doing about storylines? What are you doing about viewership?" That next Monday, you had Retribution and Raw Underground. Like that was a very reactionary move. Does this surprise you all at all based on your experience there that he was like, guys in masks, throwing Molotov cocktails? I mean, that sounds like a creative meeting that you guys would have.
Well,
Hey,
you know,
it actually is a creative meeting we had the second he debuted it.
Good things, right?
hey, he obviously knows what he's doing. So whatever he thought of, he thought of it because he business decision, man. That's
Of
how
course
he works.
of course he knows what he's doing, but sometimes he makes business decisions, and we call each other and go, we fucking have to spoof that.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Now we got Retropoops it showing up, and we have a real fighting segment on Talking Shop Mania too as well. It's called Roll Undershed, where that
hoot fights.
That fighting is real, and the other shit, and the ball versus ball is fake.
Yeah. That's the shooting. They're not shoot fights; they're hoot fights at Roll Undershed.
What? See, I can't even get it out, bro. So watching Vernon Love and his son fight each other in this Roll Undershed. Like it's Vernon Love is Gallows' minion, right? And like his actual real son, he's
coming over to wash the dishes in an hour. But anyway.
Well, they're having the real shoot fight in Roll Undershed, and they're beating the fuck out of each other in a really weird way. It's fucking funny, man. Jesus.
There's a scene in there where he's trying to hit somebody with a weapon, and it takes him about an hour and a half, and I just fucking lose it every time.
Well, of course, the main event is ball for a ball, right? So you would hope that the whole match, the whole show, people would avoid ball shots, right? Well, everybody hits each other in the balls the whole show.
You all need better agents.
Psychology, brother. We're gonna have to start. Yes, we need.
Don't worry. We made comments on it on commentary the whole time.
No. The way we agent your matches, we bury you on commentary for the world to see afterwards.
You all need the spot and the wrestler. No, I'm working the nuts tonight. You go for the arm. One of those.
Fuck.
Oh man, is there an agreement in place to do Talking Shop Mania 3?
Oh yeah, Sean. Yeah, they don't know about it yet.
Is there?
I want Talking Shop Mania 3 to happen in front of a live audience when the world opens. I've already had preliminary conversations about this.
The main event's already set. We've already got the main event for 3.
Really?
Let's just we can't.
You tell me.
I've been exposing everything, but
you can tell me.
You can tell me, brother. No.
Yeah.
We've already got it all set. Basically,
spoiling Carl Anderson, ladies and gentlemen.
I can't spoil that one yet, though. Let's just get the rise of the cock torturer over first, guys.
Cock torturer.
Oh my God!
You might have to switch it anyway if this pay-per-view doesn't sell at all.
Yeah.
And if there's not over, then we might have to completely abandon just that it even happened to. And
you can imagine the ball for ball like verbiage, right? Like, I mean, I take a rope, I tie it around Sex. Well, Chad Too Bad takes a rope and ties it around Sex Ferguson's nutsack and tries to pull it off with a truck. Like,
oh, of course.
Sex Ferguson has a what's it called, a shocker or whatever, trying to shock my nutsack, and I'm just screaming, going nuts.
Many
I mean,
things. Big mountie spot in there.
Borrow Jacques Rougeau's mountie gimmick.
Yes.
You never know who's going to show up in the Talking Shop Mania world, you know?
Well, and of course the verbiage of me saying I'm gonna rip your balls off and take a bite out of them, and he goes, Jesus, don't do that. I mean, that kind of stuff. And I go, maybe I won't. I don't know.
Yeah. It was a very unique relationship, and I'm super excited to actually be part of the creative process and create some new formulas and new flavors. We got V-Trigger coming out. Well, it's already out, I guess, by the time this releases. So V-Trigger on its way. Again, a flavor I'm very proud of. I'm proud of the product. I'm proud of how it tastes. I'm a very when I take my supplements, how it tastes is always very important. It's got to be, you have to feel it, but you have to enjoy consuming it as well. So hopefully, amongst their already wonderful flavor profile, that V-Trigger will be one of the top tastes. Hopefully, I'm pretty proud of it. And again, it's just been fun to choose a flavor, to sample flavors, to revise it, and come up with a winning formula. And I think we found it. So I'm excited, really excited.
Obviously, appearance and physical fitness is something that goes hand in hand with your line of work, but you've seen like a ton of schedule changes over the last couple of years and location changes and all that. How important has been stuff like this, and especially the stuff you're doing with Redcon 1, been to your adjustment, whether it be schedule or travel or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, as the schedule gets more hectic and as I get older and as you find yourself traveling more and spending more nights in hotels and all that stuff, really being able to supplement efficiently becomes sort of paramount. You might not be able to get sort of nourishment via real food that you can order from a restaurant when you need it, because
maybe you're burning some midnight oil, and maybe you're out, and working until 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning or whatever have you. And, maybe doing drive-through McDonald's at 4 a.m. isn't probably, for my lifestyle, it's not great for me. I'm going to go to bed not feeling well. I'm going to wake up probably not feeling well either. So it's great to have these options where, for those moments in need, when you need to snack on something, or whether you need, some vitamins, or whether you need, pick me up, that we have something for you. And Redcon was, they were there for me before we even signed this deal. I was always really happy to use their products as a customer. So to now represent that brand and help represent it, but also use their products as well. It's a real game changer. And it's like you said, it's now part of sort of the creative process and some of the product formulation, and it's really cool. It's really fun. But just because I made a product doesn't mean I'm just making a product and stepping away from it. I'm a user and a believer of these products on a day-to-day basis. And I really think I found a great partner to team with, because, what they create is, it's very, very transparent with their labeling, exactly what's going in, how much is going in. It's very safe. We'll be in big box stores everywhere, whereas you can buy, they sort of hold their products that they carry to the highest standard. So they're not going to let any rinky-dink backwater deals. They're not going to, see the dawn of day, the light of day on their shelves. So, it's cool to really have sort of a product that keeps, actual human health and safety in mind, so that no one's digesting anything they shouldn't be.
And I'm sure there are a plethora of people who came to know you in the last few years, especially with AEW exploding in America. But the physical transformation that you have went through from the time that you had that now famous promo with the AJ Styles turn, like you are composed completely different. How much of that was supplementing and finding stuff like what you're doing with Redcon 1?
Yeah, so aside from being able to sort of push your own limits in the gym or otherwise in whatever sorts of training or performing that you're doing, just supplementing comes into play for me specifically as I get older, where it helps you deal with injuries, deal with the rough travel schedules. So like I said, when you're on a bus for 7 to 9 hours, or you're on a plane, or planes in plural, and you're just bouncing from plane to plane to plane, and you're not going to have time to sit down and eat or whatever. These are where these things come into play, and these are where these things make sure that you're, making sure you're treating your calories, making sure you're getting your vitamin profile, all that sort of thing. Back when you were talking about the AJ Styles turn, I felt that I was going against the grain to stay lighter, so I fit in more with the juniors. But by the same token, I was doing sort of the rough schedules with New Japan without having any sort of help. So if I was really hungry, I would wait till we got to the next rest stop. And, typically in Japan, when you go to a rest stop, you have just fried foods, curry. That's it. I mean, it's tasty, but if you're waiting, 5 hours for your next stop and that's the next thing you ingest, it's not necessarily going to reflect in your physique or in your performance. You know what I mean? So to be able to now, carry product on me and make sure that that what goes in me is of the highest caliber, that allows you to build a better physique, to stay in better shape, to have more energy. And now that I'm, it's a different lifestyle than it was in Japan, doing what I do now, but the hours are even more odd. I have to do a lot of business overseas, and I have to do a lot of business, here as well. So I have to adjust my schedule around a schedule that is 12 hours different than what I'm living right now. So that means that, it's late night, early mornings, and supplementing in that regard helps a lot. If I I play games, I like to play competitive games. So, first person shooters, I like to play, fighting games, you need to be ready, and and even being slow by a couple frames of animation, it could be the difference between winning and losing. And I like to play everything and do everything that I do at the highest level that I'm capable of. So even supplementing there, it really helps. Helps keep me alert, helps keep me focused. We have products for that as well. So whether it be me manning the calls and or computer, at 7 or 8 a.m. when I'm going to bed at 5 or 6, I'm able to stay alert. I'm able to kind of put my best foot forward. I'm not a zombie in those cases. And of course, that's working. And when I have to do things in the ring, when it's like a quick segue from doing that to tossing on a pair of tights and doing what I do in the ring, that's where the supplementing comes in as well, where we have supplements for hydration, supplements for energy, for alertness, for mental alertness. There's something for every situation, and again, the product lineup just keeps expanding every time I talk to these guys. They're working on something new, something groundbreaking, and it's really cool to be on the cutting edge of it and to be a part of it all.
The guy you have been talking to, Roman Reigns, I mean, this storyline has just, my God, it's exploded. And I mean, the promo work that we have seen between you guys, when I talk to people, they'll tell me Roman's going to want to one up that, Kevin's going to want to one up that. And does that push you from a performer aspect when you see somebody out there killing it and you gotta at least do as good as them, if not better?
Yeah, well, so Roman's never been better, right? Everybody, I'm pretty sure, can agree on that. And he's showing a side that a lot of people, ironically, have been waiting for him to show for a long time because, the crowd reactions he used to get and whatnot. Everybody would wonder, why don't they just embrace that? And now he's embracing it at a time where crowds can't react to him, which is ironic as well. But he's really doing really well in that new attitude and that new way of carrying himself, and it's pretty awesome to see. And of course, it makes me want to match it, like you said. But that's really true of any time I've worked with Roman, even when the roles were reversed. Because he's very passionate about what we do, so am I. And there's different levels of passion in different people. But when you work with somebody who's as passionate as you are to create good moments and memorable moments and good stories and all that stuff, it naturally brings your level up as well. So it's been really enjoyable. And it's not just him. Heyman and Jey Uso have been so great in their roles as well. It's just really cool to do something. It's fresh. It feels it's very refreshing for me. To be involved with all those guys and the way we're doing it now, and I hope it continues for sure.
So you're in a TLC match this weekend. You have been in a ladder match now every year in WWE since 2015. As I went back and looked, it is an innovative match type. You're an innovative guy. When you do that, are you already thinking like, what can I do in this match that I haven't done before, or does the situation predicate the offense?
Yeah, I think I just kind of like to adapt the match to the situation and the story we're having. I don't really think of things to do beforehand. It kind of comes to me as we go, as the match gets closer. I never set out because I you can get ideas for stuff you'd like to do, but if it doesn't fit within the framework of the match you're trying to have, sometimes forcing it just doesn't help, so it actually makes things worse. So I try to go into every match with an open slate, a clean slate, open mind, and just kind of take it from there. But there's never been a ladder match or a tables match or any kind of match with a stipulation that I haven't pulled out something kind of nuts, so I really wouldn't expect Sunday to be any different,
Well, on Saturday, before all this, your Chronicle airs. How much are cameras like kind of following you and in your face with that type of thing? And how used to it are you? Because I know that even before WWE, you were doing like talk shows and stuff on like separately from that. So I mean, it's not like you would immediately like get off camera after your matches or anything. You were sitting down for an hour at a time with wrestlers and talking to them. So now you got cameras following you. Is it that much different for you?
Yeah, the Chronicle. So usually when they work on something like that for the network, you're followed for months, right? And then they condense it into an hour, 40 minutes, whatever it is. But this time they actually were only filming with me for, 2 SmackDowns, and then they came to my house for a day.
Wow.
So they really weren't filming with me very much. They didn't have time because they decided they wanted to put this Chronicle out before TLC. So we did what we could, but basically the whole crew that works on this stuff, the network documentaries, the stuff you see on YouTube, like all this kind of behind the scenes footage you see, all those documentaries, the crew is so incredible that even when they're, filming me or following me around, or even in this case, when they're at my house, unless I'm sitting down with them to do an actual interview, I almost don't know they're there.
Yeah.
And, in this case, Joey, the guy who filmed it all and is putting it all together, he's like I said, he's really good at just being almost like a ghost in the background. So there's a time, no joke, when he was in my house, I was getting my daughter ready for school in the morning. I forgot he was there, and then she started talking to him, and I turned around and I said, oh, she's talking to Joey. And because he was just kind of off on his side, kind of shooting us do our stuff, and I was just doing what I do every morning with her. So it's cool that they definitely get like a glimpse of what we are before we go to work, and how, in a way, for me, a big part of my story has been how work has always influenced my life outside of the ring, because I'm pretty consumed by work at all times. So that's a big part of this Chronicle, actually, is trying not to let this story with Roman and this TLC match bleed too much into my just everyday life, because it's obviously a very big opportunity. But anytime you get to be a part of that stuff, the Chronicles or 24s, whatever you want to call them, it's pretty neat because it gives people something to be excited about, and it gives people a reason to just care about the match they're going to see. In this case, it's airing the day before the big match, so it's cool timing. It's interesting that they put it there, and people are going to get to watch what it's like to kind of prepare for a match like that.
And WWE is so good at putting those together. Dare I say that WWE doing so many documentaries encouraged a lot of other sports and entertainment to do it. I know NFL Films had a lot of influence too, but WWE from like the early
part. Well, funny enough, so Joey, the guy who's doing it, Joey used to work for the NFL and do that kind of stuff.
Not
for
surprised.
Them. So yeah,
not surprised at all. They're always so good. I mean, it's top notch stuff. You had an appearance on Impact Wrestling recently, and I remember the picture where it had like, I think it was you and Ben Carter and a few other people, and people were like, oh man, they're going for it. They're bringing these guys in. How did that come about? Who reached out to you?
So it was back in, I want to say like March or April. Alex Shelley was talking to me, Ben, and Trey about doing Future of Honor, which was supposed to be in May. That ended up getting canceled because of the pandemic. And Shelley's always been a big supporter of us. So once he went to Impact, he was pushing us to the people in charge there. We got the opportunity because of Alex Shelley recommending us. We drove down there. I think we got the invite in like a week's notice. We went down there to Tennessee and we got into the tapings, and we just had an opportunity to do singles matches on Explosion. It was really cool. And it was a good learning experience. It was my first time wrestling on, I guess, like a television setting, even though Explosion isn't nationally televised here in the States, it is internationally televised. So wrestling on TV with those cameras and everything was very different, and it was a good learning experience.
Yeah, that's one of the things you always hear of about, even like the Performance Center. People joke like you got to figure out where the cameras are and all that stuff. But that was a real like adjustment and a new thing for you, right?
Yeah, they have cameras and things on independent wrestling, and there are certain companies that try to run like TV, but it's very different when you have these very professional, high quality cameras and lighting and all that stuff.
Did you get any feedback from anybody specifically, or anybody that was giving you advice or helping you out there?
Yeah, so the first person I got to talk to when I came back to the current was Chris Bay, and he gave me a lot of advice on camera work and stuff, because he, to me, is one of the best people at doing that, finding the camera and all that stuff. So I got a lot of advice from him that helped a lot. I got to talk to Tommy Dreamer. Matt Stryker was backstage. I talked to him for a little bit. There was a lot of good feedback and a lot of helpful things that I wouldn't have gotten if I didn't go there, because I've never been around those guys.
And you mentioned Future of Honor. Is that something you're still open to doing? I know ROH is kind of running again, and I know that they're set to make some pretty big changes and adjustments there. Is that something you're still looking at possibly doing?
Yeah, I'm completely open to doing pretty much anything. I'm 100% a freelancer, so I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, which is my favorite part of it. It's like I still haven't found where I fit in yet, so I need to just experiment and expand. And a lot of people don't know, but I was scheduled to do Ring of Honor's tapings recently.
Oh.
But because of the pandemic, it got canceled and I couldn't do it. So, yeah.
I know they're very strict, too, because, like, when I'll interview their wrestlers, they're in a bubble, like, for 3 or 4 days. Like, they're stuck there. Like, so, I mean, that is something that obviously you're open to doing, and you've appeared on Impact, Ring of Honor. We're seeing a lot of crossover there, and people that aren't nailed down to contracts getting unique opportunities. You have to look at that and say, like, man, that's a good thing for me.
Yeah, I really like the way wrestling is right now. Seeing guys like Chris Bay or other Ring of Honor guys doing stuff with New Japan, or seeing MLW and AEW guys working together. It's really cool seeing all these brands work together to help each other out, especially during a pandemic when things are so limited. You're like getting eyes on each other, and everybody has a different product to offer. Like Ring of Honor's product is completely different than Impact's. Impact is completely different than AEW's. Everyone's is different, and they're helping each other grow, and that's really cool.
Was there anybody else that you look at, whether it would be somebody that you could wrestle or not, that you specify and you took significant parts of their game?
Well, I've said Roddy Piper a billion times. Ric Flair, Tully Blanchard. It's unfortunate that me and him had to have a spat back in the day, but I think if me and him talked it out, it'd be fine. I mean, the list honestly goes on and on. Nick Bockwinkel. I grow exhausted with the examples simply because I watch so much professional wrestling. I watch Mid-South wrestling. I watch Global. I watch Smoky Mountain. I watch AWA. I watch World Class. I watch anything I can get my hands on from pretty much from 92 downward, simply because so many people in my generation don't concern themselves with that time frame because they feel they can get nothing from it. And I find that laughable. There's a reason why every single time I'm in the ring, it seems that I'm unique. I feel like a throwback of sorts. I feel different, whereas everybody else is kind of just going out there and they're trying to do sequences as fast as they possibly can, and they're trying to hurt their opponent by doing flips and dives. It was never my MO. I believe Chris Jericho is somebody who is able to mix both the old school and the new school, and that's something I pride myself in as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like it surprises some people when they find out how much stuff from not just before you were born, well before you were born, that you take in.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a prodigy. It's the equivalent to when you hand a kid, some old school music from, let's say, I don't know, give me like an old school artist.
Tyga.
Okay. That's definitely, that's not working. That doesn't work here in this example. We'll skip over the example.
Ray Charles.
Bottom line, yeah, it's old school enough. I was thinking even further back than that. It is what it is. Yes.
Bill Withers?
And that's a good one. They hear the music, they sit down, they play it perfectly. I was the same way. I watched this wrestling. I absorbed it like an absolute sponge. Stay a creative pro inside those Hollywood halls. The second I stepped foot in that ring and I locked up with somebody, I already realized I was on a different level than everybody else. And so did Kurt Hawkins, and so did Pat Buck. At that point, it was really their job just to take this clay and try to mold it to their best of the abilities. And from there, it was pretty much gangbusters.
No, I'm already. I signed last year an extension for 2 years.
Oh, nice.
Exclusive to ROH. So my contract will be ending up on December 1st. 2021. So I got about 11 months because it started December 1st. So my last year started December 1st. So I got about 11 months to go. So I guess around the summer or August, September, that will be a hot time. I think that will be where we're making decisions on both sides of the equation. It's going to be see where we at when we get there. It's hard to predict anything right now.
So are you still seeming like you're going to keep it going? You're not going to slow down at all?
No. There's so much unachieved things that I got to keep going because I got goals that I didn't achieve, and I'm gonna tell you like this. I'm super happy that I reached one of my goals that was to become a world champion with a major organization, which was their ROH. But I'm not happy with I'm going to put it in these words, and that's me talking. That's got nothing to do with ROH, but the way I envisioned this title run when I was a kid, when I was 14, huge gates and huge breakout pay-per-view numbers came with it, So it was not just becoming a world champion, but it was also to impact the business in a way a little bit like Hogan or NWO or Steve Austin did. I just didn't want to be just a champion that just pops out, for a few months.
Could you see yourself getting into producing or agenting and helping wrestlers like that after your career's over?
Mostly, I'd like to achieve what I want to achieve in the business. And I don't say no to those things, but I'd like to go out and write a book. And what are the steps? Not the 7 steps, but when I say what are the steps, what my journey was, what I've learned when I was 18, 16, what I've learned when I was 20, what made me become who I became, at 50 because of the lessons that I've learned, and I look at myself in the mirror and taking full ownership for every decision, for every move that I made, and not blaming it on the others, and not trying to find who was guilty of what, and just being fully responsible for everything. I think that's the process that made me achieve what I did. But since then, I have discipline, triple discipline, and quadruple discipline on so many other aspects of my life. So I'm expecting a larger result eventually. I don't think it could be something less, because I feel like I'm improving every day. So yeah. So being agent or producing or being part of a booking committee or to enough idea, it might be an option, but I'd like to write a book too, and to really help out a lot of athletes, whatever it's their let's say when someone would be drafted and then pop out the way it was supposed to pop, and I like a guy like that to read my book and to help him out, reorient his career and his focus, and then are you really willing to pay the price and to put the efforts that you need to put in, and stop blaming all the circumstances around you and the environment for your failures, and look at yourself in the mirror, and just from there roll up the sleeve and go for it.
What's the next thing that you look forward to? What keeps you motivated after an early exit like that?
To just keep fighting, get back into things again. Like I said, we all know we hadn't been in the ring forever, so to get that first match under my belt, great, awesome. And then now it's get more matches build up, and figure out a way to always improve, always try new things, because we have that opportunity right now just to just have fun until Japan says we can get over there. Because like to live in Orlando and know that WWE running up the street, and there you got matches going all day, and I'm like sitting over here like I could just drive over to that PC and just make a like, hey, I'm not under contract, and I'll probably get in trouble in New Japan, but I just want to wrestle right now. So
So you're not under contract right now?
No, sorry. Well, I finally got under contract last summer.
Okay.
But I still have that sort of mentality, like even though you're under contract, you should fight like you're not, because I think that's one of the first things I learned with well, not first thing, but like one of the things I learned from WWE is like that it's just a piece of paper. Like they can at any time. So it's better to have that mentality, because I know in college that's how it was for us. When we were on scholarship, it was only a year-long thing. So you have a whole year to audition basically for another year. So that's how I feel now with New Japan, because I learned that from WWE. There's a false sense of security with that contract. So now with New Japan, I still maintain that idea that I'm under basically, an audition for a year.
Yeah.
Like, so here's the contract. All right, prove that you're worthy enough for another one. So it's like, all right, cool, yeah. Keep that mentality.
These year-to-year bases, and if it was last summer, would it be like up soon, or are you there long term?
Yeah, it's going to be up soon. What's nice is that the company's been real good about staying in contact with us and letting us know how things will work. And we'll talk again once this pandemic is done, which it won't. we can definitely like start. What's nice is Japan, I think if you've seen it, they've been able to fill their arenas up to 50% capacity. Yeah. They have people, which is nice. It's nice to see people in the arenas again in Japan. But until we get back to Japan, everything's still just keep fighting, make sure you're doing your best to stay healthy and to contribute to the company.
Yeah, one of the popular talking points when I would interview a lot of the WWE wrestlers that got released, they were like, yeah, the piece of paper says 3 or 5 year contract, but we're under 90-day contracts, so they can fire us and pay us for 90 days at any time they want. Like, that was how a lot of people felt. They're like, Gallows and Anderson, they signed 5-year deals, and now they're booking Paul Lee on Fight TV pay-per-view and having Boneyard matches.
Yeah, hey,
living the dream.
I think that's everybody's dream, is to create a program where you can just have a good time.
So in addition to War Games, in addition to Royal Rumble, you hosted Halloween Havoc, which seems right up your alley. And I'm always interested, again, in how you hear about these things or how you're told, because that is very evident that the company and certain people have confidence in you that you're given a spot like that, or not even given, earned a spot like that. How do you feel, and what goes through your mind when you hear that?
Well, I have wanted to be a horror host since I was real young. Like, I looked up to Elvira, Vampira. Like, I watched all the late night horror, local horror shows. And like, when they said that, I was like, oh my God, like, I'm living out another dream through wrestling, and it's crazy. But when I found out, I was actually getting a tattoo, and I had to tell my tattoo artist, like, hey, I have to break for a second, I have to take a call from work. Yeah. And then that's when they told me. And what was extra funny about it is I was getting an Exorcist tattoo.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, yeah, the horror lives on.
You got to be like, oh, hold on a second, I got to take this call about me hosting a cable televised Halloween themed program. Just normal stuff. Yeah. Just normal stuff. Another part of your wild year was being in the Battle Royal on SmackDown, where, again, you're in there wrestling with a whole lot of different people. How was that for you?
Oh, it was so great. I look up to so many of those girls, and SmackDown just has this energy there. Like, it's different, and it was wild.
So I was probably a 10, 11-year-old kid in 96 when you just mentioned the end was coming. And I remember the Zip character. And so here's the thing. I've always loved wrestling, but kind of wasn't allowed to watch it again until 95. I was about 10 years old, and I remember Tom Pritchard, but I had no idea that Zip was Tom Pritchard at that point.
Well, let me say this: Zip really wasn't Tom Pritchard at that point. It was a horrible time in my life, horrible time in my career. I think it was more of a rib on me. They'll never admit it, but it was everything that I wasn't, and I can tell you, it was not fun. And that's what I tell people all the time: if you can't get into it and you're not connecting with the audience and feel good about what you're doing, it's not going to work. So it wasn't me. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't even do my best because it was such a horrible gimmick to me, and I was not Zip. I played the part of Zip, and that's not what you got to do in this business. You can't play a part. You have to be authentic. You have to be the part, and that's what we talk about when we watch these old matches. We talk about the difference between today and yesterday. These guys were not playing a part. Bruiser Brody was not playing Bruiser Brody. He was that guy 24/7, sometimes with the volume turned up, sometimes you had to turn it down. But guys like Wahoo McDaniel, Jack Briscoe, Terry Funk, they were those people. They were authentic characters. And I hate that word character, but they were authentic. They were the real deal. When you met them on the street, there was something about them. They were special. These days, everybody looks the same. Not everybody looks the same, but most guys are monotone and look the same in a variety of ways, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But they're just going out doing moves for the sake of doing moves, whereas there's no emotional feeling and no authenticity. So, with the Zip character, just to tell you, that was terrible for many reasons.
How was that pitched to you? Who pitched it to you? Was it Vince directly?
It was a time after the Heavenly Bodies were done in WWE. My partner Jimmy Del Rey and I were thrown together after my first partner Stan Lane just decided to quit. He wasn't making a lot of money, and he didn't like coming from Charlotte, North Carolina to Knoxville, Smoky Mountain. So we got Jimmy Del Rey, and then we had a couple shows, pay-per-views there, and then Jimmy decided to be Jimmy and didn't want to come back. So it was one of those things where I said, hey, if there's any opportunity whatsoever, and it was pitched like this: well, would you like to cut your hair, dye it blonde, and be a body Donna? I said, absolutely not. And they said, okay, click. And I went, whoa, wait a minute, hold on. And at that time, once again, you have to have the right mindset, and you've got to think positive. There was not a whole lot of positivity going on back then for me. And when I came into it, with all the wrong way of looking at it and the wrong attitude about it. And it was a disaster. And that's how I know. And that's why when I talk to people about stuff like that, I can tell them, you have to have this mindset. You got to think positive. You got to believe, and you got to know what you want, and you got to know who you are. So it was pitched as, well, if you want this is what we have. If you don't, got nothing for you right now. And I understand that. I just wasn't ready to stop wrestling at the time. But man, when I got in that situation, I almost wished I would have, quite honestly.
I know that you ended up working with Candido like a year later in ECW. How did that situation come about?
Well, that was, once again, Chris had gone back to ECW. I was now teaching and coaching for WWE, and it was Paul Heyman. Vince and Paul, WWE and Paul always had a relationship. And what a better way to make use and give Chris a good win than to have me come in and put him over in ECW Arena, which I was more than happy to do because I love Chris. Chris was great, and it's just the other circumstances that went with it wasn't so great.
Well, that's the thing that I always thought was cool about you doing Mission Pro was that, as I mentioned, not only do you have wrestling experience, but you've got MMA experience, and you've been on TV everywhere. And I mean, like, literally everywhere, but, well, maybe I don't think you've done anything with Impact or WWE, but that's it. You've done TV everywhere else. Has WWE or Impact ever reached out to you? Because it seems like Impact, like, that would be right up their alley. Really? Never? I mean, I know Impact and NWA don't have the best relationship.
I was supposed to go last September for a referee tryout. And
Really?
yeah, that was like a week before I signed my contract for MMA. So
Was that in WWE or Impact?
No, that's in WWE. Dorian, the hurricane happened, and my things just keep getting canceled, and then I was just getting too close for me to sign my contract for my fight, and I was already training. I had like 3 months training, and I was like, I can't wait. Like 1 week's too long for me not to train. Like I just sent them an email. I said, thanks for the opportunity. Hopefully we can work out something in the future. And I left it as that. And like that happened, and just my career went like skyrocketed, you know, because we made it happen. But yeah, man, it's just like it's insane. But other than that, like I never got any emails, interest of nothing. You know, one thing I will tell you too, I'm very particular about. I don't ask.
Mm-hmm.
I don't be on people's DMs and like I don't ask. If you don't want me, no matter how many times I send you an email, you probably will, you know, give me a tryout because you're tired of like seeing me and be like, okay, you know, a radar. But I don't ask. Like my talent, my work, and my work ethic is gonna speak volumes. And when they see that in person, and they see people that work in the company talking about my work ethic, then I know things are going to happen for me. And they will come and be like, hey, Thunder, are you interested in working our show this time? Absolutely. Let me see if I'm not into a contract and we can do it. If not, it's just be like, no, I can't. And let's talk about it another time. But that's always been my mentality with absolutely everything I've done. If it's for me, if it's written in my destiny, it will be for me. That's why I work so hard all the time. And I continue to work hard, and I will continue to work hard until I retire.
No disrespect to their offer either, and I'm sure you would have been a great ref, but it seems like you got a lot of good years ahead of you in the ring, and obviously you do because a couple like one of those years is already it's happened. You're sitting here, you're about to be on All Out, you're promoting Mission Pro, you're the NWA World Women's Champion, so I think that was almost like a blessing in disguise, so to speak, because you're on the ascent, and you've been on the ascent since 2016. And you're still on the ascent in 2020, and that's a very unique situation to have. So if an offer were to come along and WWE were like, hey, you know what, we're doing the Mae Young Classic, hey, we're doing Royal Rumble, we would love to have you in because, quite frankly, they've had a lot of women that have made history for them pop in and do matches here and there, Evolution 2, anything like that. Is that something you'd consider?
I would consider it. I would have to ask exactly what the details are. I'm not going to go back and then just, while the girls are going in the ring and say, hey, have a good match, and that's it. That's my cameo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to go back to that. I would like to get, what they say in the business, to get my shit in a little bit.
Yeah, of course. Well,
you
you got some pretty good shit to get in. So
yeah, I just don't want to come in as just like seeing in the background chit chatting. I don't want that. I would want to do something.
I mean, quite frankly,
not big. I don't have to win a match or anything like that. I don't mind putting the girls over and that stuff like that. But to go back and like going, that's it, and then because you see on social media, that's all, and you're like going, wow.
I want to see Sasha Banks sell a Widow's Peak. Like that's what I like. She's one of the best out there. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
So when you hear that somebody like Britt Baker, who from what I understand you didn't know, is going to bat for you in this manner, from what I understand, she was like showing Tony Khan personally footage of you that she saw. That has to feel good. That has to be like like a real confidence booster, because I mean, she's like the face of that division.
Yeah, it was very cool, and like I'm a big fan of hers anyway. So it was cool that that was a thing to begin with. But like we had never like actually like formally met in person. She had just seen some things on Twitter and on the DCW shows that she'd liked, and that just shows like how like good of a person she is. Like she didn't have to do that for me, but like she went to bat, and it's literally like resulted in like some of like the best periods of time like in my entire life. So I can't thank her enough for being the kind of like catalyst for that. It's all surreal, but that part's also really, really cool. So
what's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful here with a name you know, because she has been the star of Fightful content over the last week. It's Trent's mom, Sue. Sue, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Thank you so much for calling me. This is wonderful. Thanks.
I don't think I have been as excited for an interview in recent memory in a while. You've become a sensation on AEW programming and even behind the scenes.
It's an amazing experience for me. I absolutely love it. It's hysterical. I just can't even believe that Greggy got me, brought me into the storyline. I think it's hysterical.
So how did that happen? How was that pitched to you? Did he just say, "Hey, do you want to do this?"
It was like, I think it was like the weekend before. I want to say it was like on a Friday or something like that. And he said, "Oh, we're talking about you driving us up in a van and dropping us off. It's not definite yet, but would you be interested?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'd be interested." He goes, "All right, I'll let you know." I think it was Sunday. He goes, "Okay, I'm flying home to pick you up." He flew to Myrtle Beach, and he picked me up, and we drove down to Jacksonville, and that's how it started. I was like, there was like no, there was like 3 days before I knew anything about it. He discussed it with Chucky, and I forgot how it came about, but I couldn't believe it. I was like, sure, I'll go. It was so exciting.
Yeah, he had mentioned in an interview with Aubrey Edwards that he saw so many people driving in trucks and all that. He was like, man,
yes. Oh, that's right. That's right. Yes, that's how it started. He saw them and he goes, "Why don't I have my mom?" And Chucky loved it. Yes, you're right.
So
yeah,
the van has become a star of its own. Is that a rental or is that your actual van?
I don't know how I should answer that.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. You don't have to expose the business, so to speak. Here.
I don't. I'm not sure about that. I'm like,
I mean, it's the woman makes the van, not the van makes the woman. You know what I mean? It's a matter.
Thank you.
So how did you feel when you made your first appearance and then people liked it so much that they kept asking you to be involved and you're referenced in the story after that? I mean, how did you feel about that? Was it? I mean, he's been around wrestling for a long time, so you've obviously seen him wrestle for a long time, but you've never quite been a part of the story, so to speak, like this.
No, not like this. No, he had me at a little federation. He's had, like when he wrestled on Long Island, he used to like somehow pull me into the show a little bit from the audience. And, he'd always point me out and stuff like that. I'm like, oh my goodness, this kid of mine. But this was above and beyond anything I ever expected to happen. It feels very special. It makes my heart melt for my sweet Greggy. He's like, I have 3 boys, but I mean, and they're all sweet, but I just can't believe that he pulled me into the story like that. That's the biggest compliment a mom could get. I'm going to start to cry. Oh my goodness. I'm getting emotional. I'm like, it just gives me goosebumps. It's so sweet. It's just the sweetest thing ever. The love. It's great.
My wife watches AEW with me. I do my own show after that, and I got to take in all the wrestling on Wednesday nights. And by far, her favorite thing from this Wednesday was your sign-off, so to speak.
They had to talk me into that. I did not want to do it. I did not. I am not going on national TV. Oh my goodness, I'm a retired teacher. That's so embarrassing. It's so wrong. And they just tried and tried. Eventually they said, you are a character. This is not, you're a character. You can do that. And I was like, all right. Now I'm so glad I did that because I love it.
Yeah.
I changed completely, but I was a little bit like shy about it. I'm like, really, that rude and crude, but it was great. I'm so glad they convinced me, and everyone was coming over. You have to do it. It's the best way to end it. It was great. It was wonderful.
I mean, my wife's a new special education teacher. She thought it was the best thing on the show, and it was a very good show.
I'm a retired special education teacher.
Oh, fantastic!
And for elementary, so I'm thinking some of my kids are going to watch. That's really not what a teacher does. So.
Oh man.
Right.
It's the new normal.
How embarrassing. And I'm a character. That's the way I got talked into it. You're a character. I'm like, okay, I'm a character. Characters do things out of they're. So it was great. I'm really not that much of a character. I'm really just a mom.
You said
a mom character.
You've had unique experience in almost every televised company over the last really 12, 13 years. I know you'd done some stuff with WWE. You'd appeared in Ring of Honor. You'd done some stuff with New Japan, with Impact. How do those stack up to what you've been doing with AEW? Whether it be on TV over the last year or just as a whole over the last couple of years?
Well, very different. All the other things I did were very, very small roles. I appeared with TNA off and on for maybe 6 months, but nothing consistent. WWE was just a few, I think it was like 2 weeks and a non-wrestling role. New Japan, I didn't do any TV or anything. I did one of their live events. I don't even think it was a pay-per-view or anything. I don't know. Maybe it was, but I did one of their live events in Long Beach, and obviously I ran their LA dojo with Shibata. Wrestling Society X, I had a couple of good moments on, but all of them were really, really small roles. And with AEW, obviously I've had the opportunity to be a stronger character and a bigger profile. Obviously I was a champion and I've been in the eyes of the fans a little bit more than I was in the other companies. So it's a completely different experience for me. Coming to AEW almost made me feel like a rookie again, because I knew how to wrestle on TV. I've wrestled on TV a bunch of times, whether it be local on the mainstream stage, but just the little things that you pick up along the way that are so different from wrestling on the indies or wrestling in, companies in general. Everything is highlighted. Any tiny little thing that you could get away with on the indie circuit is just magnified on television. So it really sharpens your tools. So that I would say that was a huge difference.
So yeah, Wrestling Society X was taped and pretty heavily edited. You had Ring of Honor, who is owned by the broadcast company in which shows them. AEW is in a bit of a different situation because they are in a very fruitful partnership with TNT. Were there any adjustments were there any changes, things that you looked at and you said, okay, I've never done things this way before?
Not really, because like I said, I've done live TV before. Obviously I've done plenty of tape TV, but I've done live TV before, even if it wasn't regularly. But all the Impact stuff I did was live, and they were drawing really good ratings back then. They were drawing ratings probably comparable to what we're doing. So it was at a big level. So I can't really think of too many things that I'm sure there are a few small things that I haven't done before that I'm like, this is different, but not that comes to mind, nothing huge.
This past year in particular has been big as far as gaining experience for any wrestler because you're experiencing something nobody's ever been through with the pandemic.
Yeah, well, when I first started out, I definitely was a little stiff and a little snug. I apologize for people that helped train with me, but it took a little while to kind of break the habit, to make things a lot bigger and more showy. The presentation is really what makes the difference, and I had a lot of really good coaches kind of help me with that. Billy Gunn, Adam Pierce, Norman Smiley. So those guys really made the difference from transitioning from like a traditional MMA and amateur wrestling background into professional wrestling.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people might not draw that comparison, but I think that Norman Smiley is actually a pretty fair comparison to you, a guy who is technically refined, can like actually go, but has a very bright, vivid personality, as we've seen on Ring of Honor TV. Like, what are some of the things that stand out that he or one of those other guys taught you that maybe made that light bulb go off?
I spent a lot of time with Norman when I was in NXT, and that was just like a blessing, man, because like you said, our styles are very similar. So kind of learning how to put things together and like transition a little more smoothly, and I think to really present what I have this vision for myself and how to present that in a way people can understand. So Norman really put a great spotlight on that when we were training, and guys like Adam are phenomenal, man, and spending a lot of time with him really kind of helped like the other stuff, like the more gritty things that you kind of need in your back pocket, and learning about the sport in general. And then of course you got like guys like Billy Gunn, man, that's like one of the best character workers in the business, and just even being able to like sit under that learning tree, you learn like from all aspects, plus his tag experience and just sitting under that learning tree is unreal.
You've already been on the record and talked about the Nexus reunion of sorts that was supposed to happen earlier this year. So you've covered that extensively, but there was a bit of one a couple years ago in Chikara, I remember. It was yourself, Michael Tarver, and PJ Black doing the King of Trios. Now, I love that tournament because they do that a lot. Like, they've brought back Demolition, the BWO. How were you approached for that, and what did you think after that had been so long since you'd been a part of that?
Well, Nexus Alliance was a lot of fun. I've always been cool with Tarver and PJ, but I was intimidated because I didn't think that I could hang with these guys. These Chikara guys are flying and so innovative, and I was always trained 80s style. So again, being thrusted upon that, we all delivered, and I actually could keep up with those guys. You know what I mean? But yeah, earlier this year, Nexus was supposed to come back apparently. I mean, I was called in January of this year about coming back for WrestleMania Access and some network stuff. And then I got another call in February or March saying that we were canceling Access, canceling all that stuff. If any opportunities open up, we'll definitely give you a call. So recently I was on their show, The Bump, which was really cool. They took care of me on that. But like I said, I'm not on the ban list. I'm still loved and adored by the production team and WWE. Nothing lasts forever, but again, I got to keep it moving. But I'm very happy to kind of toot my own horn because I've been holding this debut in for some time now.
Yeah.
That I was getting jealous of my friends like Heath, getting jealous of who else?
There've been a lot of them that have been making waves.
A lot of guys just doing great things. The Good Brothers, I'm like, man, these guys are all doing great things. I can't wait for my announcement. Now I can toot my own horn now. Now Rusev. Huh?
How long has it been? How long has this deal been put together?
May or June is when Rocky Romero reached out to me, and then we started rocking and rolling in July and August, and now, a ton of shows that you'll definitely be seeing me on, and I'm very happy for it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you think WWE will try to run back that reunion? But it seems like if you had your preference, you'd probably focus on New Japan over that.
Yeah, man. Like, I mean, I'd love to get signed by New Japan. I'm not signed with them. But if I can get signed with New Japan, that's great. If WWE calls me back, I mean, like, I'm not one of those. I was just talking to Chavo earlier. I'm not one of those grizzled vets that are going to talk bad about the company.
Yeah.
I don't have anything. I've had great experiences with WWE. The only time I would get upset is like years ago